Whoa, it's time to shoot a video. Wow. What's going on, hikers? In today's video, we're talking about how can you have a better experience in the winter time, or heck, even for just cold weather while you're in the backcountry out on trail. If you're new to the channel, my name is Jeremiah Stringer, and here we talk about all things hiking and backpacking. So if that's your thing, that's my thing. Consider subscribing to the channel, because that's exactly what we're all about here. So today I got quite a few tips for you to help you have a better experience out there in the cold. See, here's the deal. I did the Vermont Long Trail, and even in like spring-ish weather, it was cold. And you may just like laugh at me because you live up north and I live in Kentucky. And so winter here, you know, today it's like 60 degrees. And I don't know if these tips are for you, but if you're anything like me and freezing outside on trail is cold to you, I think I got your back. And heck, even some of these may apply to you even if you're in one of those deep winters up north. So let's hit you with the first thing. Sometimes I'm laying in my sleeping bag and I'll wake up and I'm like, oh, it's so warm in here. I do not want to unzip this thing and let all my heat out. So I got a tip for you. You're laying there, take your clothes and drag them inside of your sleeping bag. See, I sleep in different clothes than I hike in, and so I always have to change back into my hiking clothes. Now if they're dry, sometimes I'll just leave them in my sleeping bag all night. Or in the morning, like I said, I'll drag them in through like the face hole of my sleeping bag, and I'll pull them in there and let them warm up, and then I'll change clothes in my sleeping bag. Now that may not work for you because I don't know your setup, but I have a Nemo Disco and it's like a spoon shape. So it's got a little extra room. So if you can, consider changing in the sleeping bag. Or if you're in a hammock, maybe you can just change, you know, under your underquilt in the hammock. I don't know how hard that is though, because I haven't started hammock camping yet. Let's go on to number 2. So this you may have heard before, but multiple pairs of socks. And I actually have an alternative for this, but what I will typically do, you know, is I'll wear one pair of wool socks. Like for instance, you don't have to have something great and like super expensive. These are just some wool socks, a wool blend that I bought at Walmart for, I don't know, $4 or $5 for a couple of pairs. So you can get a couple pair of these and put hot hands in between, or the hot feet, I think they're called. Or the alternative is, if you don't want to do that, sometimes I will take, you know, some sock liners and wear those with a pair of wool socks over them. And that just helps keep my feet nice and warm all throughout the night. Never have a problem with it, never have. Number 3. Some people think I'm absolutely disgusting and they would never consider this, and they say, one day you're gonna pee all over yourself, or you're gonna wake up in your own pool of urine. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty gross, you're right. But this is my pee bottle, okay? Don't tell my mom. Put duct tape around it so if I pee in it, you can't really see it. But this, if I pee in it inside my sleeping bag, it actually stays warm for a little while. Now, if you think that's absolutely disgusting, or if you're female and you can't really do that, well, I got an alternative for you. So something that's been around for a while, Nalgene bottles, you can fill boiling hot water before you go to sleep. And amazingly, this will insulate it enough to not burn you with that boiling hot water. Use your best judgment, okay? There's my disclaimer, but try that out, and that will stay warm for a lot longer than my pee bottle, I'll tell you. Now, I will give you a little bonus tip here. If you have to pee, whether it's gonna be in a bottle or whether it's gonna be outside and you have to let all that warmth out of your sleeping bag, and I'll tell you why. Your body has to use so much energy through the night to keep that pee warm. Man, I'm saying pee a lot. To keep that urine warm. And if you can get that out of, your body doesn't have to work as hard to keep it warm. You know, think about how much energy it takes to keep this warm inside your body. So try to pee as much as you can before you crawl into your sleeping bag or under your quilt or whatever your situation is. And then if you have to get up at night, don't just lay there. Don't just lay there and be like, I'll wait. Get out and do it. I know it sucks, but it'll be worth it. All right, let's go on to our next tip. Number 4. This sounds counterintuitive. You may not have thought about it, but sleep with less clothes on. I got a friend, her name is Kristen, and she is also a backpacker. And she said, I used to sleep with like my puffy on and multiple layers and that kind of stuff, and we kind of come to the conclusion that your sleeping bag can't do its job if it can't trap the heat in. So your heat will dissipate in between layers and your sleeping bag can't catch it all. So your sleeping bag's job is to do this. It is to take whatever heat is in the air that your body's heated up around you, okay, and it wants to insulate that. That's what all the fluffy down or synthetic, whatever you have, is for, and it traps that in. So if you're wearing all those layers, as the heat gets further away from your body, your sleeping bag, you know, it's not trapping warm air. It's trapping, you know, air that's not as hot because your body didn't get a chance to warm it up. So even though it sounds weird and counterintuitive, sleep with less clothes on. Now I have pushed the limits of my sleeping bag a little bit. In some situations it's a 15 degree, but I'm a cold sleeper. So what I'll do is sometimes I will zip my puffy up and I'll stick my legs inside of it. That helps a little bit. Or if I'm kind of cold up here, I may pop a couple of those hot hands and just stick them down next to my sides. Or I will cover up with my puffy inside of my sleeping bag, and it kind of adds an extra layer, and it lets you push your gear a little bit further. Number 5. Guys ever had one of these? This is called a buff. I don't know if you can read it from way back there, but a buff is basically a sleeve. It's a tube, and I use this for all kinds of things. Now I know I've talked about them before, so if you're not new to the channel, you've heard me, I'm in love with these, okay? And I actually got a new one, and I think I'm getting another new one, so that'll give me 3 buffs. This one's got holes in it. And anyway, the tip is take this and make a beanie out of it to sleep in. You're like, what? How do you make a beanie out of that? Well, let's see if I can show you. You take it, turn it inside out, and then you roll it just a couple times, and you tuck it back over itself, and then just like that, you have a beanie for your head. And what that does is if your head is sticking out of your sleeping bag at all, it kind of gives you that extra layer there to help protect your head from getting too cold. Now an alternative, maybe you're hiking through the day and it's kind of cold. Well, let me show you what I do. Let's see if I can manage this. Oh man, sometimes it really sucks having eyeglasses. So you take your buff and you put it up here, and you pull it on your cap if you have a cap, and what happens is, see that? It covers your ears, and it helps keep my ears warm while I'm out on trail. And I just used this technique on my last trip in Big South Fork. So you'll see me a lot out on trail. Even in the fall, I'll have that buff kind of tucked up around my ears. Oh, let's get this thing off. Makes a scarf too. All right, tip number 6. Or is it 6? This one you have to be a little bit careful with, so hear me out. But if I'm really cold, right before I crawl into my sleeping bag at night, what I'll do is a few jumping jacks. Not gonna lie. You can do whatever you want. You can jog in place, you can jump up and down, but my thing is jumping jacks. And I'll do maybe 10 or 15 of them. I do not want to sweat. Please don't sweat. Okay, that's why I'm saying do your own thing. Make sure you know your limits there, and you're not going to push your body to sweating, because that's the last thing you want in the cold. But do a few jumping jacks. What happens is that warms your core body temperature up, gets the blood flowing before you crawl into your sleeping bag. And then that lets your body, you know, release all that heat where you've just warmed up, and you're starting off the night right. I want you to comment below and give me some hacks that you use out on trail. Spread the wealth of knowledge and help out the other viewers. If you've enjoyed the video, give me one of these, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and kick that notification bell for the latest notifications so you can be notified every time I release a new video. We'll see you in the next one.